Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to this exciting session. I know it's early morning. This session is close to my heart, to our heart. It's about diversity and inclusion. In my country of birth, Morocco, there used to be a saying that every woman has two exits. The first one is from home to your husband's home. And then the second one is simply to the grave. That's not exciting, isn't it? I remember my grandmother telling me, find the third exit. Do you know what is the third exit? It's knowledge, it's education, it's passion. I have been blessed personally to be engaged with WIN initiatives throughout my career because I truly believe that diversity and inclusion offers all to the corporate world that can help companies like ours to be simply better companies. We mean by diversity, diversity of gender, diversity of religion, of races, sexual orientation, and the last but not the least, diversity of thoughts. And when we have the diversity in the room, you need inclusion. You need to listen to it. If not, why having it at all? At Silder, the better way for life cannot be only about creating shareholder value or increasing our market cap. It's also about creating a better life in the communities where we operate, in bringing the diversity and inclusion alive in this room and below the ladder. When Jerome talked yesterday about passion being one of the key attributes of the Silder leaders, I could not help it but think personally about WIN being one of my biggest passion in life since a decade or so. For those who do not know, the Women Initiative Network at Silder is an employee resource group that seeks to create a completely inclusive culture within our company, in which both men and women can thrive and succeed. WIN aims to ensure that Silder encourages and supports the professional development of women in order to boost the overall performance of the company throughout fostering a vibrant and diverse culture, mentoring, supporting, and coaching many women colleagues, actually many male colleagues. Back in 2010, Silder had only 2 WIN groups in Duncan and ANZ. In 2013, we launched another 5 local groups, and now we have 10 across the world. New Jersey, Charlotte, Racine, Duncan, Barcelona, Amsterdam, Passerana, Istanbul, New Zealand, Sao Paulo, and very soon Dubai and South Africa. We have engagements at the top. Emile Chamas is my co-sponsor of the Silder WIN, and I know that one of his speeches at the Italian WIN gathering is part of the Silder WIN Best TED Talks. Ruth Roper has been engaged since years in the Silder WIN. With her leading the Beacon project, we actually created the Charlotte WIN satellite before even having temporary offices. Carol Lowe, our CFO, is a passionate leader about the cause. Not only she supported the creation of the New Jersey WIN satellite, she encouraged many women in her leadership present here to be part of the WIN leadership. And more recently, she has supported us to engage with our WINs, such as with SciTech Corporation, where she is a board member. Now, it's not only about the top. We have a group of highly committed women and men who are not here today and who are leading our WIN initiatives, because everyone can be leader at Silder. These colleagues take personal time to lead other women at Silder to become better managers. Now, as most of you know, one of the many things that makes me passionate about the hygiene and cleaning industry is the urgent need to transform it and make it more inclusive, especially to women at lower levels. And in this industry, there are huge gaps in gender diversity. And if I can give you one example, it will be the inequality of wages and salaries, like in many other industries. Adding to it that there is a lack of prestige in the job because nobody has ever dreamed of becoming a cleaner. More than 70% of cleaners around the world are women. 50% are either illiterate or they do not speak the native language. We decided with few passionate leaders in our industry to help our customers' employees in the cleaning industry to access education and training, as well as become more aware about the best cleaning standards and collaborate in building a human capital curriculum. This passion for diversity and inclusion led us to the creation of the cleaning industry's first women association called the Hygiene Network. This is the first global women association in the world I know about focusing on developing women, not at the top, but at the bottom. It's named after the Greek goddess of cleaning and hygiene, Hygeia. You may remember the Y of Tuesday. The Greek already understood and linked cleaning with hygiene. It's a vibrant worldwide community which will provide ongoing education, networking, professional development, and personal recognition awards available to any woman working in or associated with the cleaning industry. The Silder Donation Committee, led by Ruth and Jim, has committed to be the first sponsor of the Hygiene Network. I'm extremely proud to be part of the Silder family, especially when we lead the path for a better way for life. Now, thank you. Thanks to you. Now, for this special win session today, we wanted to invite a special person, a special woman, and she is one of the most inspiring women I have ever met. Deborah Gillis is the President and Chief Executive Officer of Catalyst, the leading research and advisory organization working to change workplaces and improve lives by advancing women into business leadership. Deborah brings a unique blend of strategic vision, operational savvy, and advocacy to her position. Her career at Catalyst includes roles as Chief Operating Officer, and Senior Vice President, Membership and Global Operations, where she led Catalyst's global growth strategy and expansion into India and Australia. Prior to Catalyst, Deborah spent more than 20 years advising decision makers in the public and private sectors, including management roles. She twice served as a candidate for elected office and has made coaching and mentoring of women in business and political life a personal priority. As a breast cancer survivor and a woman who has successfully overcome the challenges inherent in high-pressure, male-dominated environments, Deborah is a recognized advocate and expert on expanding opportunities for women in business. She is frequently quoted in the media globally, including the Wall Street Journal, BBC, CNN, the Globe Mail, and Economic Times, on issues related to talent and women's leadership. She regularly addresses senior leaders around the world in a variety of business, academic, and public policy venues. She will tell us today how important diversity and inclusion are for leading companies to reach prosperity. You will have the chance to ask questions later in the session. I am extremely pleased and honored that she accepted our invitation. Please give a warm welcome to Deborah Gillis.
So those of you who work with Ilham know why I'm here, because she's very impressive and very persuasive. One conversation with her and I said yes. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you so much. I said to some of you as I was greeting you this morning, you understand a lot about the culture of an organization when you walk in at 20 to 7 in the morning and there's people engaged on a whiteboard and talking and filling up a room. I came here with the expectation of delivering remarks to a room at 7 a.m. to say, well, there'll be no one's going to show up for this. This says a lot about your company and your commitment and your engagement, and so it's no surprise to me to know how well the company's doing and all the improvements and growth that you've seen. So congratulations to all of you, and thank you for being here this morning. As Ilham mentioned, I'm the president and CEO of Catalyst. We're a global nonprofit organization focused on the creation of inclusive workplaces. We were founded in 1962, and today more than 800 organizations globally support our work. They turn to Catalyst, as you do, for credible insights, advice, and strategies that drive change for women in business. I'm particularly pleased to be here at Sealed Air, a Catalyst member company with a clear commitment to excellence and a long history of understanding that the right thing to do is also the smart thing to do for business. We know, as you know, that this is what drives innovation. And of course, it's a privilege for me to speak to such a global group at a leading Fortune 500 company. I especially want to thank the Women's Initiative Network here at Sealed Air. As you heard in Ilham's remarks, WIN is an employee resource group that aims to create inclusive workplaces that fully leverage the talent of your workforce. We're really pleased to have 3 members of the WIN Steering Committee in the room today, Pauline Lewis, Deanna Carter, and Terry Coelho, as well, of course, as Ilham, who serves as WIN's executive sponsor. Thank you for the work that you do and for being here this morning. At Catalyst, we know that employee resource groups are essential to advancing strategic workforce goals, like the retention, recruitment, and advancement of top talent. Employee resource groups play an important role in career development and linking business to corporate responsibility and strategies. ERGs have a very valuable role to play in supporting overall business operations, and they are an important way to foster inclusion in workplaces. That leads me to what I'd like to talk about this morning. How inclusive workplaces, the kind of workplaces where employees feel unique and at the same time like a valued member of the team, are essential to individual satisfaction, team performance, and overall organizational results. And how organizations need both company-wide efforts and outstanding individual leadership to get there. It's why I believe that inclusion is the foundation on which sustainable change for working women and men must be built. But before getting into the specifics of the topic, I thought I'd start with a little bit of my own story. I grew up in a blue-collar family on a long gravel road in a Cape Breton, Canada, fishing village. My mom and dad raised 5 kids in an old farmhouse with no central heating, bathtub, or shower. My mother cooked on a stove that was heated by wood, and for a long time, the phone in our house had 2 bells on the top and a crank on the side. Now you're all wondering how old I am, right? And I guess it's pretty safe to say, given that environment, that the feminist movement had not exactly reached my small town as I was growing up. Neither of my parents graduated from high school. I was the first person in my family to go to university. I took jobs cutting grass, washing dishes, and working in a toilet paper factory to help pay for my education. And believe me, there's nothing like watching toilet paper rolls roll off an assembly line at 4 a.m. to encourage you to continue going to school. Getting from there to where I am today was made possible by my parents and teachers who taught me the importance of working hard and getting a good education, the third exit. And they encouraged me as well to set my sights beyond simply getting a job to pay the bills, but to focus instead on building a meaningful career. In high school and university, the work hard, get good grades advice that I had received as a young person served me very well. Certainly, the socioeconomic differences between me and my classmates seemed to fall away as my academic performance led to leadership roles and scholarships. And being a woman certainly didn't seem to be a barrier in any way in an environment where test results and performance were all that mattered. But as I moved into the working world, I began to see that being different wasn't always seen as a positive. In my career in business and in politics, I was often the only woman in the room. Later, as a member of the advisory board of the National Black MBA Association, I found I was the only white person in the room. And more recently, moving to New York to run Catalyst, I found myself covering the fact I'm a Canadian. I've learned to ask for directions to the restroom instead of the washroom. I've learned to say presentation instead of presentation. I've learned to spell labor and color and honor without a U. Why? Not because I'm embarrassed to be a Canadian, quite the opposite. I'm proud of where I come from, and particularly in this job, coming from a country with a long history and values around creating a just society. But, like many other people, I struggle to feel as if I belong, where holding true to my identity and the unique traits that I bring to the table. That's what inclusion means. It's what allows leaders to remain focused and successful because they don't have to hide who they are at work. In fact, who they are is a key part of what makes them and the companies they lead so successful. So how do you and we together create workplace cultures that allow more people to succeed? First, we have to face some hard truths and acknowledge that what worked in school won't work nearly as well in the real world. That means that women have to avoid what I call the good student syndrome. Put your head down, work really hard, wait for someone to notice. We need to spend time building a network of allies and relationships. Because in the working world, who knows you is often more important than what you know. As you can imagine, it wasn't a straight line from the farmhouse I grew up in to my office on Wall Street. My experience and Catalyst research bears this out, has taught me that when it comes to career advancement, women need mentors and sponsors to help them get to yes. And while the two terms are often used interchangeably, there's a very important distinction. Think of it this way. A mentor talks to you, offering advice and guidance and experience. A sponsor talks about you, advocating for you to be given important assignments, international roles, and other critical career advancing opportunities. My first sponsor found me when I was a university student completing an internship with the government of Nova Scotia. I caught his attention by completing every project on time and to the best of my abilities, then asking for more. He took me under his wing, offering advice and mentorship, and later used his influence to recommend me for a high visibility project that positioned me for a greater opportunity. When he was confronted with, "We don't know her work, she's not ready," which in that environment was all code for, "Let's pick one of our buddies," he stood firm. I was a hard worker. I knew where I wanted to go professionally, and that intentionality and seriousness of purpose were essential to my success. But looking back, I can also see that gaining a powerful sponsor led directly to the opportunity I later received to become a candidate for elected office. Unfortunately, Catalyst research finds that women are less likely than men to be offered high visibility, mission-critical assignments, even when organizations are focused on professional development for both men and women. Those assignments position women for advancement, and women are also less likely than men to benefit from those highly placed sponsors who are prepared to play the role my first sponsor played in my life. So it's pretty clear that even in organizations with a strong commitment to diversity, and even more when leaders have the best of intentions, stereotypes, unconscious biases, and natural human instincts all come into play as assumptions are made about women's skills and aspirations, and as decision makers are very naturally drawn to someone who looks and sounds familiar to them. Nicholas Kristof made this point quite effectively in a recent New York Times column when he argued that even those who believe in equality sometimes make decisions that inadvertently transmit both racism and sexism. His perspective brought to mind for me a young woman I met in India. Her boss expressed great confidence in her, gave her glowing performance reviews and feedback, but always seemed to give the big assignments to her male colleagues. Finally, she asked him why. He told her that the more important jobs and assignments required working outside of regular business hours, and confessed that he was concerned for her personal safety. While his intentions were very good, that attitude was depriving her of the opportunity to gain important experience and visibility. She needed her boss to let her make the decision for her instead of choosing for her. Getting past roadblocks like these requires us to think differently about both leadership and inclusion. We encourage companies like yours to follow the wonderful examples set by recent Catalyst Award-winning companies Procter & Gamble, Kimberly-Clark, and Chevron. Procter & Gamble refuses to use violence against women as an excuse for not hiring them. Instead, the company collaborated with local governments in India to change the law so that women workers at its plants could get to and from work safely. Kimberly-Clark recognizes that its leadership should represent the company's consumers from around the world, 80% of whom are women. To build a pipeline of women leaders, the company dramatically changed its approach to diversity and inclusion, committing to increase the number of women in high-level positions globally. This focus has helped the company enhance innovation, bolster continuous improvement, and increase its ability to attract, develop, and retain the talent it needs to achieve business goals. And at Chevron, inclusion is everybody's business. It's not solely the responsibility of senior executives or an issue most employees expect HR or the women's and minority affinity groups to deal with. In fact, Chevron's policy of holding everyone accountable for diversity and inclusion reinforces what Catalyst research on inclusive leadership shows, and what is a very long-held belief of mine, that true leadership is not a function of authority, but of behavior. In today's workplace, people from all walks of life, at all levels of society, are redefining and expanding our notion of what a leader looks like by demonstrating 4 behaviors that Catalyst research links to inclusion: empowerment, accountability, courage, and humility. Did you notice how that says each? It takes empowerment to get the best from the people you're leading, accountability to get the job done, courage to try something different, and humility to admit that your way of doing something is not necessarily the best or the only way. And importantly for a company like Sealed Air, these same qualities that allow employees to feel both unique and like we belong result in higher levels of career satisfaction, team citizenship, and innovation. So what can everyone in this room do to help? As leaders, I'd like everyone in the room to follow the example of one of the members of the Catalyst Board of Directors, the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. He asked his leadership team to write the answers to 3 simple questions on a piece of paper. Number 1, who are the 3 people that made a difference in your career? Number 2, who are the 3 people who would put your name on their list if I asked them the same question? And number 3, read your lists and ask yourself, do they all look just like me? If you are a man, and many of you are, identify at least one talented woman to mentor or sponsor and help her gain access to critical opportunities. Become a role model for other men in the company. Tell your male peers about your commitment to building a gender-inclusive workplace. You have more influence than you might think. We know from Catalyst research that men pay attention to what other men say and do. Your commitment will inspire others to stand up for equality and to alleviate other men's anxieties about earning disapproval from other men. I'd also encourage you to join Catalyst's online community for men. It's called Men Advocating Real Change, or MARC, at www.onthemarc.org. MARC is one of the only forums where men can discuss gender issues at work in a judgment-free zone, accessing resources and information, tapping into blogs and insights from around the world. Now, if you're a woman, try mentoring a man. Women who mentor men can inspire those men to become champions of change. A deepening awareness of gender equity often motivates men to become champions of both fairness and other talented women colleagues. I also encourage you to take the "No Boys Allowed" sign down off the door, as you've done this morning. Invite male colleagues to participate in women's employee networks or resource groups. Many men want to help, but don't necessarily feel welcome in the effort to address what are so often stereotyped as women's issues. And of course, be sure to pay it forward, offering your mentorship and sponsorship to other women in your organization, always remembering that women have a responsibility to lift as we climb. The truth is that these issues affect everyone, from the woman who is tired of being paid less than her similarly qualified male colleagues, to the man who's tired of missing his son's school plays, to the single parent who is tired of scrambling for cover whenever her kid's schedule changes, to the employee with no children who is tired of missing that Tuesday night yoga class that's so critical to his well-being. Men and women of all backgrounds deserve to be recognized for their talents, not typecast due to their gender. Parents of any gender deserve time with their kids, and people without children deserve time outside of work. Part of what needs to change in workplaces around the world goes back to the work that Chevron has done to hold every employee accountable for inclusion. Implicit in this policy is an understanding that women cannot make progress alone. We need committed male allies to model inclusive leadership and advocate for women colleagues to be given opportunities to advance. We saw evidence of this quite recently when Catalyst gathered leaders from employee resource groups from around the world to share best practices. We saw straight women leading LGBT ERGs, white women championing women of color, and men participating in women's ERGs. They are following the example of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who in his famous I Have a Dream speech praised the white allies who had come to hear him speak for realizing that their destiny is tied up with our destiny. A message, I must say, that resonates strongly today, particularly with what is happening just 200 miles away in Charleston at this very important moment in history. It reminds us that we will never achieve truly inclusive societies and workplaces unless we unite behind a common goal. That's why Catalyst launched MARC and created a new MARC Leaders program that's designed to engage men as champions of diversity. It's why I'm thrilled that Catalyst attracted more than 42,000 learners from 200 countries around the world to participate in our first ever open online course on inclusive leadership. We know by now that having more women in power is a win-win-win for women, companies, and stakeholders. That having more women on boards and in senior leadership, on average, improves organizations' overall financial performance. We know that inclusion enables companies to better understand and serve their customers and causes innovation to flourish. We also know that women today represent half the talent pool, earning the majority of university degrees in many countries, and we know that women influence the majority of spending choices. All of which is why I am so encouraged that more and more companies understand and realize what Catalyst has known for years, that creating more inclusive workplaces is not just about fairness and equity. It's about leveraging talent and is crucial to an organization's long-term success and sustainability. In other words, advancing women isn't just the smart thing to do, it's the right thing to do. For society, not just for business. For men and families, not just for women. And for people like me, who would have once been considered an unlikely candidate for the jobs we hold today. It's time to build workforces and leadership teams that look like the communities we serve, and then to go one step further, to create dynamic organizations where innovation thrives, and where empowerment, accountability, courage, and humility are recognized and rewarded, not as feel-good behaviors, but as essential components of modern leadership. Many of you in this room, many of the men are fathers, uncles, husbands, and many of you will at least be one of these things one day. In those roles, as well as the roles you already have as managers and colleagues, you can act as an ally to your women colleagues. Each and every person in this room has the power to change something. And I'm challenging each of you to own that power. Each one of us can take at least one action today that will have an impact a week, a month, a year, or 5 years from now, just as my first mentor continued to change my career and my life so many years down the road. That's why I'm calling on you each to step up and be a leader. Because the actions we take now can transform not only individual careers, but entire workplaces and lives. Thank you very much for your time and for having me here.